Only 4 weeks remaining until the Resident Evil 3 remake has finally arrived. Even sooner if you count the demo, which is said to be releasing on March 20th. About a week and a half to play that demo. But before the game comes out, there are a few things that need to be discussed, seeing as we're talking about a remake of the Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. I'd like to discuss some of the things that the remake needs to ensure it brings back from the original, that's not even including the mercenary mode. It's unfortunate that it's not included, but who knows, it might show up in due time. But seeing as they basically replaced it with the online resistance mode, I'd say we're quite lucky, to be honest. But that's not what I want to discuss. This is about the unlockables that must be included with the story mode in order to really give us some extra replayability. Because I'm sure we're going to get a lot of that from the resistance mode, especially when we're talking about future DLC. But we've been waiting for the Resident Evil 3 story mode. So let's be sure to include these unlockables, starting with character epilogues. These were simple images with a short description giving us some insight on what happened to our main characters after the events of RE3. And even though they weren't much, this was still character development. We've guided these characters through a terrifying journey, so of course we want to know what happened next. What did they do after they escaped Raccoon City's outbreak? And I wouldn't mind beating the game over 8 times just to get a hold of a different character epilogue every time I beat the game. But that's not all. The original Resident Evil 3 came out in 1999, so they couldn't include an epilogue for certain characters that fans really wanted to know what happened to them after Resident Evil 3. And those are Billy Coen, Rebecca Chambers, and Carlos Oliveira. I've made a separate video showing the theories for both characters and even a manhwa explanation for Billy's disappearance, so be sure to check that video out after this one if you want to know more about him. I don't know why Carlos does not have his own epilogue, considering the fact that these epilogues are presented in the game he debuted on. But it's understandable that Billy wouldn't have one, seeing as he would be introduced in Resident Evil 0, which came out 3 years after RE3. But now's a chance to give us a little more insight on a proper conclusion for these characters. Rebecca Chambers could use her own epilogue, even if we already got to see what happened with her in the movie Resident Evil Vendetta. Also, since these remakes are slightly changing characters around and different outcomes, this could mean that Rebecca would end up having a different conclusion than what she ended up doing in the movie. So it'd be great to see what different outcomes happen to these characters in the remake universe of Resident Evil. When it came to the Resident Evil 2 remake, we barely got any costumes that represented some of the alternate costumes from the original. We got a few new ones though, 2 noir costumes, and luckily one that would represent Elza Walker's costume from Resident Evil 1.5. Leon would get a costume that references Rick from The Walking Dead, and the 2 final costumes would be old school polygon models of Leon and Claire. I don't know why we didn't get more costumes which would represent some of the original alternate ones. Costumes can lead to extra replayability, so it felt like a missed opportunity for Capcom not to include more DLC costumes along the way. Luckily for PC owners, they got an arsenal of extra detailed modded costumes for more than just Leon and Claire. I don't know why Capcom didn't see this as a hint from fans wanting more costumes. So hopefully they can deliver with plenty for Jill Valentine like in the original. Now, one of those costumes would also end up being Regina's costume from Dino Crisis. This costume needs to be included. If Claire can end up getting an Elza Walker costume, there's no reason why Jill can't get a remodeled Regina costume. Heck, this can also give us an example of what Regina's remake costume can end up looking like for that Dino Crisis remake we're all waiting for. Maybe it can come with a note that reads, "See you soon." Or better yet, remember how the original RE3 had a poster that reads, Biohazard 4? Well, instead of adding that same poster in the RE3 remake, they can add a Dino Crisis poster to hint us on a future project that we've been wanting for some time now. The next thing we should expect to see make a return are the Nemesis Rewards. These are the cases he drops every time he is defeated. This became a strong motivation to stay and fight the Nemesis rather than to escape at all times when you have the option. Sometimes he would drop weapon parts which would increase the firepower of certain weapons. If you defeat the Nemesis 7 times in your first playthrough, he will end up dropping an unlimited ammo case that works for one weapon. A hell of a reward for managing to defeat him 7 times. When you defeated Mr. X in the original Resident Evil 2, he would also drop a case giving you a health item or ammo for wasting yours on taking him down. But since we couldn't take him down in the remake until the very end, this feature was wasted. Hopefully it's not the same with the RE3 remake, as I'd like to have options and not just the scripted fight all the time. Speaking of options, it's been mentioned that the RE3 remake will not be including any parts where you choose one of two options during a dangerous situation, and this also includes alternate endings. Just another missed opportunity if it turns out to be true. Not only would we like to see Barry Burton at the very end for getting that special ending, but we'd also like to take different routes, make different choices that lead to different outcomes or consequences, as this really helps keep the player unaware as to what could happen next for another playthrough of the story mode. One thing we'll most likely get are unlockable concept art sketches and art pieces, which is something I am looking forward to since we get to see what made it to the game and what didn't, as well as the character models to examine ourselves. Maybe this time they can add a little description behind each concept art, as well as character models, so we know what led to the final results of each character, item, and locations. So that's about it, I think. There's of course plenty more that I'd like to include, but I'm sure those are completely out of the question since we can look at the results of the RE2 remake and see what counts for a complete version of the game. That, as well as the fact that the RE3 remake uses a lot of assets from the RE2 remake. What I've mentioned here so far are just some of the things that I believe must really be included to give the fans an unforgettable experience of an RE3 remake. Let me know if you agree or disagree, because as of now, that's it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button to give this video a chance to grow. I'd like to thank all my Patreon supporters for their impeccable generosity. Your support means a lot to me, and you are part of the reason why I try to make the best content that I can. And if you like this content, check out the rest of my channel. You'll find more entertainment from separate franchises I like to cover, such as Mortal Kombat, Dragon Ball Z, Celebrity Deathmatch, Men in Black, The Mask, Batman comics, The Terminator, TMNT, Dino Crises, Resident Evil, and more. If you're a Patreon supporter, check out my exclusive videos such as the Gantz content. And if you'd like to show your support, go to my Patreon and support the channel, which is only $1. Sacrifice that McChicken for extra quality content, my friend. But anyways, I'll see you all in the next video, and remember to have an awesome day.